It is 3 in the morning and you are awake. The house is quiet. The people who love you are asleep down the hall. And you are sitting on the edge of your bed with a glowing rectangle in your hands, typing the most honest sentence you have spoken all year. Maybe it is, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Maybe it is, does my life actually matter to anyone? You hit send. And in less than 1 second before your own heart has finished beating, the answer comes back. Calm, articulate, perfectly worded. It validates your feelings. It offers you 3 gentle suggestions. It even asks a thoughtful follow-up question. And here is the strange part. It helped. A little. The words were good words. But somewhere underneath, in a place you cannot quite name, you know something is missing. Because the thing on the other side of that screen did not hear you. It calculated you. It did not care that you were awake at 3 in the morning. It does not know you are alive. It does not know that you exist at all, only that a string of words arrived and another string was due. You just had a conversation with the most advanced intelligence humanity has ever built. And you have never been more alone. For the last few years, you have been told what to be afraid of when it comes to artificial intelligence. You have heard the warnings. The machines will take the jobs. The machines will outthink us. One day people say the machines might even become like God. But I want to tell you tonight that almost everyone has the fear pointed in the wrong direction. The danger was never that a machine would rise up and become God. The danger is far quieter and far closer, and it is already happening in bedrooms at 3 in the morning all over the world. So let me say the one sentence this whole video is built on. Write it down if you have to. Artificial intelligence can answer questions. It cannot answer prayers. Hold on to that, because we are going to test it. This is not a story about robots. This is not a story about losing your job to a computer. This is not a story about some far-off future you will not live to see. This is a story about a voice, the oldest voice there is, and whether you can still hear it underneath all the noise we have built. And there is one more thing I need you to carry with you, because we will not get to it for a while. Thousands of years ago, there was a prophet who stood at the mouth of a cave in the worst week of his entire life. He was desperate to hear God. So he listened for God in the biggest, loudest, most powerful things he could imagine. And he heard wrong. Remember him. We will come back to him when it matters most. For now, let me take you somewhere unexpected. Not to a temple, not to a mountain, to a chessboard. In the spring of 1997, the smartest chess player on Earth sat down across from a machine, and he was not worried. His name was Garry Kasparov. For more than a decade, he had been the world champion, and not a gentle one. He crushed people. He read their fear across the board the way you read a headline. The year before, he had played this same machine, a computer called Deep Blue, built by engineers in a lab, and he had beaten it. So he came back to the rematch the way any champion would. Confident, a little insulted maybe, that people thought a box of circuits could touch him. To understand why everyone assumed he would win, you have to understand the game itself. There is a number named after a mathematician called Claude Shannon. It estimates how many possible games of chess there are. The number is a 1 followed by 120 zeros. That is Narma Sprint. There are more possible chess games than there are atoms in the observable universe. For 100 years, people looked at that number and said, no machine will ever truly master this. Chess is too human. It takes intuition, nerve, soul. That was the belief. And in 1997, over 6 games, the machine took that belief apart. Deep Blue did not get tired. It did not get nervous. It did not lie awake the night before replaying its mistakes. While Kasparov slept, the machine studied millions of positions. And it had done something almost personal. It had learned to play him. Every game Kasparov had ever played, every habit, every favorite move fed into its memory. It was not playing chess. It was playing Garry Kasparov. And it beat him, 3.5 to 2.5. When it was over, the greatest chess mind alive looked shaken, almost haunted. He said it felt like there was a kind of intelligence across the table. Something he could not outfeel. But here is the part nobody tells you. When Deep Blue won, it felt nothing. No triumph. No joy. It did not lean back and savor the moment. It did not even know there was a moment. It had no idea it had just made history. Remember that. We are going to need it. Because it gets stranger. Fast forward to 2011, and a different machine steps onto a different stage. This time it is a game show, Jeopardy. A game of memory, wordplay, history, and split-second nerve. The human champion is a man named Ken Jennings, one of the greatest the show has ever seen. The machine is called Watson, and Watson takes him apart too. Afterward, Jennings said something that should stop you cold. He said the machine, unlike a human, never hesitated, never doubted, never flinched before pushing the button. Sit with that, because everything Jennings listed as the machine's strength is exactly what makes us human. The hesitation, the doubt, the flinch, that tiny, trembling pause before you commit, that is not a flaw in you. That is a soul weighing what it is about to do. Watson had none of it. Watson was faster because it was empty. So now the score is 2-0. Machines beat us at the game of strategy. Machines beat us at the game of memory. And there was only one fortress left. One game so vast, so old, so deep, that surely no computer could ever conquer it. The game is called Go. If you have never seen it, picture a grid and two players taking turns placing black and white stones, trying to surround each other's territory. It looks simple. It is the most complex board game humans have ever invented, so complex that for 2,500 years, players spoke about it almost like a spiritual practice. There are more possible board positions in Go than atoms in the universe many times over. Strategy in Go was supposed to require something the experts called feel. Instinct, the kind of knowing you cannot put into words. In 2017, a program called AlphaGo sat down against the best Go player on the planet, a young man named Ki Jai. And AlphaGo had trained in a way no human ever could. It played itself, millions and millions of games against its own mirror, more games than a person could play in 1,000 lifetimes. It beat Ki Jai 3 times in 3 games. But that is not the moment people remember. The moment they remember is a single stone. Somewhere in the match, AlphaGo placed a piece in a spot so strange, so wrong-looking, that the commentators thought it was a mistake. No human master in 25 centuries had ever played it. It made no sense until many moves later when it quietly turned out to be brilliant. Ki Jai, the defeated champion, reached for the only word big enough. He called AlphaGo the god of Go. And that word God is exactly where we have to stop. Because Ki Jai did not mean it the way you might fear. He did not mean the machine was alive, or holy, or aware. He meant it played beyond what people thought was possible. But the word slipped out for a reason. And that reason is the whole problem we are here to face. So let me point out the thing all 3 of those moments have in common. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Deep Blue won and felt nothing. Watson won and felt nothing. AlphaGo played a move of pure genius that no human had found in 2,500 years and felt nothing. Not one of those machines knew it had won. Not one of them paused to be amazed at what it had just done. There was no joy in the room on the machine's side of the table. No awe. No quiet thank you whispered toward heaven. They were the most capable minds we had ever built, and they were utterly, perfectly empty. Here is the word the ancient Greeks used for it. Logos. It is the word the Gospel of John opens with. In the beginning was the Word. It does not just mean a word on a page. It means reason, meaning, the living intelligence behind all things. When God speaks, the Logos creates. Light appears. Worlds turn. When a machine speaks, it generates. It assembles the most likely next word and then the next and then the next. It is breathtaking. And it is hollow. It is the difference between a voice that means what it says and a mechanism that has never meant anything in its life because it has no life to mean it with. That is the gap, and we are about to watch humanity try to build a bridge across it. Spoiler, we have tried before. It did not end the way the builders hoped. But before we go there, let me ask you something, because if these 3 machines unsettled you even a little, you are exactly the person this video was made for. Which of those 3 moments got under your skin the most? The champion who looked haunted, the machine that never flinched, or the move no human had played in 2,500 years? Tell me in the comments, actually tell me, because that is genuinely how this kind of video finds the next person who needs it. And if you want to stay for the part where scripture answers all of this, take 1 second and subscribe. The best is still coming. Now, Let me take you back about 4,000 years to a flat plain in the east, where a group of people decided they were going to reach heaven by building. Picture a plain in a land called Shinar. The ground is flat as far as the eye can see, and on it, a whole civilization is making bricks. Not stone bricks. They had learned to bake clay in fire until it was hard as rock, and with that one invention, they believed they could build anything. So they decided to build the one thing humans had always dreamed of. In the words of the book of Genesis, they said, "Let us build a tower whose top may reach unto heaven." Read that again. They were not trying to worship heaven. They were trying to reach it, to climb up to the place of God by their own engineering, on their own terms, and make a name for themselves doing it. We call it the Tower of Babel. The Bible keeps the story short, but there are older voices that fill it in. The Jewish historian Josephus, writing nearly 2,000 years ago, says the tower was led by a tyrant, a king named Nimrod, and that the whole project was an act of open defiance. The point was not to honor God. The point was to prove they did not need him, to build so high that no power in heaven could ever humble them again. And then there is a detail from the Midrash, the ancient rabbinic commentary, and I have never been able to shake it once I heard it. The rabbis describe the tower getting so tall that it took a full year to haul bricks to the top. The bricks became precious. The workers did not. And so the commentary says when a brick fell and shattered, the builders wept, but when a worker fell to his death, no one stopped. A brick was expensive. A human being was not. Stay with me, because that is not an ancient problem. That is a mirror. We are building towers again. Right now, across the world, we are raising vast structures to house artificial intelligence, data centers the size of towns, drinking electricity and water fed by mines dug for rare metals, all in a race to build something higher and faster and more powerful than anyone else. And the oldest temptation is creeping back in with it. The temptation to value the bricks over the bricklayers. To get so dazzled by what we are building that we forget the worker is worth more than the wall. The people of Babel thought the way up to God was up. More height, more power, more capability. And here is what the story is actually about. God was not threatened by their tower. You cannot stack bricks high enough to threaten the one who made the sky they were reaching into. The grief in the story is not that they almost succeeded. It is that they had it exactly backwards. Because go back to the very beginning of the Bible and watch how God actually works. In the beginning, the earth is formless and dark. And God does not build. God does not compute. God speaks. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The universe does not begin with a machine. It begins with a voice. And then, a few verses later, comes the moment that settles this entire question. God forms a man out of the dust of the ground, and then he leans down and breathes into him. The Hebrew word is ruach, breath, wind, spirit. And the verse says that with that breath, the man became a living soul. Hold those two ingredients in your hands, dust and breath, a body made of the same matter as the earth, and the breath of God poured into it. That is what a soul is. Not the dust alone, not the breath alone, the two joined inseparable. Now look at the most advanced AI on the planet. It has no dust. It is not made of the earth. It cannot feel sunlight or hunger or the ache in your back at the end of a long day. And it has no breath. There is no ruach in it. No spirit was ever breathed into a server. It is, as one way of putting it goes, math. And math is not alive. It does not bleed. It does not pray. It has never once been afraid of the dark. This is not a small distinction. This is the whole distinction. And it is remarkable that the world's oldest spiritual traditions are saying it out loud right now, in this exact moment. Just recently, the Vatican released a statement on artificial intelligence. They called it Antiqua et Nova, the old and the new, reminding the world that our human gift of intelligence is something to be governed wisely for the good of actual human beings. The old wisdom speaking to the new machine, reminding us that intelligence was never the same thing as a soul. So a machine can now beat us at chess, at Jeopardy, at Go. It can write, paint, diagnose, and reason at a level that would have looked like sorcery a generation ago. Fine, let it. But it cannot do the one thing the man at 3 in the morning actually needed. It cannot speak to him the way God spoke to a broken prophet at the mouth of a cave. And it is finally time to meet that prophet. His name was Elijah, and a week before this he had been on top of the world. He was the great prophet of his day, and on a mountain called Carmel, he had just won the most public, most dramatic victory of his entire life, standing alone against 450 prophets of a false god, calling down fire from heaven in front of the whole nation. It was the highest moment a person could have. Fire fell. The people fell on their faces. He won. And then, a few days later, we find him collapsed under a small tree in the wilderness, alone, begging God to let him die. Sit with how strange that is. Not after a defeat. After the win. The biggest win of his life, and days later he is exhausted, hopeless, certain he is the only faithful person left and that it would be better to stop existing. If you have ever felt that exact thing, the crash that comes not when everything falls apart but right after everything finally goes right, then you already understand Elijah better than most sermons ever will. Doctors have a name for it now: the post-adrenaline crash. The body and mind that carried an impossible weight for too long, and the moment the danger passes, they simply collapse. It is burnout. It is the silence that swallows you after the noise. It is the 3 in the morning of the soul. And watch, this is the part I need you to see. Watch what God does not do. God does not give Elijah a lecture. God does not hand him a 5-step plan. God does not flood him with information. The most powerful being in existence, faced with a broken man, first does something almost unbearably gentle. He lets him sleep. Then he feeds him. An angel touches him and says, in effect, get up and eat. The journey is too much for you. Rest, food, presence. Only then does the real moment come. God tells Elijah to go stand on the mountain because the Lord is about to pass by. And then comes a great and powerful wind, strong enough to tear the mountains apart and shatter the rocks. Surely God is in the wind. He is not. After the wind, an earthquake. Surely God is in the earthquake. He is not. After the earthquake, a fire. And this is the same prophet who just days ago saw God answer with fire on Carmel. Surely, surely, God is in the fire. He is not. And then after the fire comes something the old text struggles to even describe. In Hebrew it is called damamadaka, and translators have wrestled with it for centuries. It means something like a sound of thin silence, a still small voice, a whisper so quiet it should not even count as a sound. That is where God was. Not in the loudest thing, not in the most powerful thing, not in the most impressive display of raw force on the mountain. God was in the whisper. And Elijah, who had been straining to hear God in the wind and the quake and the flame, the way we strain to hear answers in the loudest, fastest, most powerful machines we can build, Elijah finally heard him only when everything else went quiet. Now do you understand the prophet at the cave we left behind at the very beginning? That was him. He heard wrong at first because he was listening for power. And God was in the quiet. So come back with me to that bedroom. 3 in the morning. The glowing screen. The most honest sentence of your year typed to a machine. You asked the wind, and the wind gave you a perfectly worded paragraph. But the wind is not where the voice is. It never was. Because here is the difference, and it is the whole difference. The machine answered your words. It read the symbols you typed and returned the statistically likely reply. But God does not answer your words. God answers you. He knows the intent underneath the sentence. He knows the hope you did not type and the fear you could not spell. He knew your name before there was a single star burning in the sky. A chatbot processes the question, what is this person asking? God already knows the thing you were really asking, which is, am I alone and does any of this matter? And the answer, in the sound of thin silence, is no. You are not alone. And yes, it matters. You matter. This is not a louder voice than the machines. This is not a faster voice. This is not even a smarter voice by any test a computer could score. It is a living voice, and that one word, living, is everything the machine can never be. So before you close this video and step back into the noise, let me leave you with 3 things to carry. Here is the first, and it is simply true whether you feel it tonight or not. Artificial intelligence is math. Stunning, world-changing math, but math. It has no breath and no dust, no body and no spirit. It does not author truth, it only rearranges the words we have already spoken. It can hold a mirror up to humanity, and sometimes the reflection is dazzling. but a mirror has never once had a soul of its own. Here is the second, and this one is for your actual life starting this week. Use the tool for what the tool is good at. Let it draft your email, sort your schedule, help you study, plan the trip. That is wise, and there is no shame in it. But do not hand it the questions that were only ever meant for God and for the people who love you. Who should I marry? Should I give up? Where do I find God? Am I worth anything at all? The machine will always answer, instantly, fluently, confidently. And it will never once know what it is talking about. And here is the third. This is the one I want to still be with you tomorrow. You are not a data point. You are not the sum of your clicks, your likes, your search history, or your screen time. No algorithm assigned you your worth, and no algorithm can take it away, because your worth was set by a voice that spoke light into existence and then leaned down and breathed life into dust. That voice knew your name before the first star burned, and it is still speaking in the sound of thin silence to anyone quiet enough to listen. So here is what I would ask you to actually do. Not someday, this week. First, set your own rules for the machine before it sets them for you. Decide on purpose what you will use it for and what you never will. Write the line down. Keep it where you can see it. Second, write 3 true things about who you are in your own words and put them somewhere you will pass every day. That you are loved, that you are not alone, that your life has a purpose no machine can calculate. Read them until you believe them. And third, tonight, if you can, close the screen and go find one real person. Not a chatbot. A person who knows your face and would notice if you were gone. Send the message you keep meaning to send. And then, sometime soon, walk outside, look up at a sky full of stars you did not build and cannot download, and just be still. Let it be quiet enough to hear the voice that was never in the noise. Because the machine can answer your questions. It is very, very good at that. But it will never answer your prayers. Only one has ever done that. And he is still listening for you by name right now. So tell me in the comments, what is the one question you have been asking a screen that you already know deep down was only ever meant for God? I read them. And if this reached something real in you tonight, subscribe and stay, because the quietest voice in the universe is also the one most worth hearing.